I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Batman Beyond could be a pretty messed up show sometimes. From the double tragedy of Mr. Freeze's final fight to the fate of the intangible journalist Ian Peake. Batman Beyond was often far darker than a children's show had any right being, and it's certainly not what the executives at Warner Brothers had in mind either. When then president of the WB network Jamie Kellner cancelled both Superman the Animated Series and the new Batman adventures, he wanted the creative team to get to work on a new show about the adventures of a teenaged Bruce Wayne. That mandate didn't fit their continuity, so instead of rewriting Bruce's past, they imagined his successor, a new Batman in a decaying cyberpunk future. While initially disheartened, it didn't take long for them to find their groove, and with that came stories that were not exactly intended for a younger audience. Of all the horrific scenarios that played out in the series, there's one that sticks out in my mind as the most hideous of them all, and that's Earthmover. It's a mournful operatic story where the bad guys aren't exactly the wicked villains we think they might be, and there are no real winners. Like many of the villains seen in Batman Beyond, Earthmover is an original creation for the show, but he was clearly influenced by classic horror movies. Personally, I get strong Dr. Phibes vibes, although that might just be the rotting green skull and the operatic lust for revenge. I can also see elements of the Phantom of the Opera and Universal's classic The Mummy. Ultimately, Earthmover is a story of resurrection, revenge, and regret. One evening, Terry McGinnis and his girlfriend Dana are studying at their friend Jackie's house, when they notice a shadowy figure watching them from outside. When confronted, the mystery man flees. Terry attempts to tackle him to the ground and is shocked to find that he's made of soil, and the impact causes him to crumble to nothing. Batman's spectroanalysis machine confirms that there's nothing unusual about the dirt, so it's not like it's a new version of Clayface or anything. Still, Terry knows what he saw, and he decides to dig deeper. Jackie is the adopted daughter of wealthy industrialist Bill Wallace. Now, anyone that has watched the shows of the DC Animated Universe knows that industrialists were generally presented as villains. See Roland Daggett, Lex Luthor, and Derek Powers for just a few examples of this. But Bill seems to be a nice guy. He cares about Jackie, he's friendly, makes jokes, and seems to be clean. But somehow, whatever it is that's controlling the soil is after him, and Jackie. While looking over the site of a future factory, the ground bursts open, spewing out toxic chemicals at Bill, Jackie, and Dana, while another much larger soil golem springs to life. It's abundantly clear that Bill has a secret because he seems to have an idea as to what's going on, and he wants to get the hell out of there. So the big secret of Earthmover is that he is Tony Maychek, Jackie's father. Years ago, Bill had offered to make him a partner in his business venture if he helped him illegally dispose of some industrial waste that he couldn't afford to clean up. The pair hid the waste at the bottom of an abandoned mine shaft. Tony had been in the shaft guiding the canisters down to ensure that they were safely hidden, but one canister got caught on a support beam. Pulling it free brought the shaft down on top of him and doused him in the radioactive waste. Rather than going to get help, Bill sealed up the shaft and left him there. There was no way Tony could have survived, Bill argued, and there was no sense in two lives being destroyed. So he kept quiet. What he didn't know is that Tony was very much alive. He proceeded to slowly rot away, but the toxic waste gradually bonded him with the soil, giving him the power to manipulate it. He's painted into the background with only his glowing green eyes moving. This really emphasizes the idea that his corpse is part of the scenery, and he's strung out almost Christ-like with what remains of his bones and leathery flesh on display. An interesting fact that I was told by Dan Reber, the director of the episode, is that the original design for Earthmover had ears, as seen in this commission for Ted Kendrick, formerly of Watchtower Database and Comic Book Resources. It might seem like a small detail, but Bruce Timm said they should be removed to make him seem less human. And he was right. Earthmover's head looks like a grimacing skull with glowing green eyes, the only part of him that can still move. He speaks through gritted teeth and in laboured, broken English. It really makes him feel otherworldly and supernatural. This is enhanced by roots that act as his veins, connected to the canisters, showing the neon chemical waste being pumped around his body. It took years for him to build his strength up, but once he felt strong enough, he sent his mud golems to the surface to enact his revenge on the heartless Bill. Except Tony's perception of what had happened wasn't quite accurate. Yes, Bill had left him there, but he believed Tony had been killed instantly. Bill never forgot him and raised Jackie as if she were his own in penance. He never intended to replace Tony, though. In fact, he encouraged Jackie to call him Bill, not Dad, denying himself the role of being her father. In his mind, he didn't deserve it. There wasn't a day that went by where he didn't think of his friend, and he was riddled with guilt. Still, he carried on to provide a better life for Jackie. When Earthmover pulls Bill's palatial home underground and says that Jackie must stay with him, Bill intervenes, offering himself up in exchange for her safety. Earthmover chillingly utters, "She stays, you die," as he drags Bill into the dirt. Now, Jackie's a very interesting figure in this story. She has no memory of her father. All she has ever known is Bill and his kindness. She's intrigued to meet her father, and while she is shocked to see the state of him, she doesn't reject him. At least, not initially. When Earthmover tells her that she has to stay below ground with him from now on, and subsequently tries to kill Bill, she realizes the danger she's in. Earthmover doesn't know Jackie either. He hasn't seen her since she was very young, but he clings on to the idea that Bill stole his daughter, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, and wants her back. He treats her like his property, not an individual with thoughts, feelings, and desires of her own, and she's powerless to stop him. It's fortunate then that Batman found his way to the cavern using the Batboat. And if there's one difference between the elder Batman and this new Batman, it's that Terry seems to have a different idea of what it means to be alive. He has no qualms about killing enemies that are not exactly human. He had pulled the Terrific Trio member Freon apart with an industrial fan. He had erased the artificial version of Robert Vance. And here he flat out kills Earthmover. Batman fires batarangs at the canisters that contain the chemicals keeping him alive, essentially his blood, and his grip on the golem falters. With his powers weakened, the golem collapses on top of Earthmover, shattering his body. But not before he uses the last of his strength to clear a path for Batman, Bill, and Jackie to escape. Perhaps in his final moments, Earthmover remembered who he was and let go of his rage. What I love about this episode, other than the fact that it's just downright creepy, is that it is so morally ambiguous. When speaking about it to the writer, Stan Berkowitz, he attributed the premise to Alan Burnett, who doesn't always get the credit he deserves. Both Bill and Earthmover are the villains of this story. Bill, because he left his friend for dead and covered it up. Earthmover, because he kidnapped his daughter and tried to murder Bill. But they're also both victims, each ruined in their own way. Earthmover, physically and mentally. Bill, spiritually and emotionally. For a show that was originally envisaged to sell action figures, this is a remarkably adult kind of horror. It's not so much the fear of monsters, but of what we bury to keep living with ourselves. Earthmover had been wronged. He had been left trapped below ground for years, slowly going insane as his body and mind rotted away, but Bill hadn't intended to harm him. It was an accident. And for as much as he had tried to atone for his cowardice, for refusing to report the accident for fear that it would ruin him, he never forgave himself. Jackie is the real victim of this story. She liked Bill and had wanted to know her real father, but he had been twisted by bitterness and resentment and tried to damn her to the same awful fate that he had experienced. By the episode's conclusion, as Batman takes them to safety, Jackie turns to Bill and hugs him, calling him Dad for the first time, and Bill hugs her back. Maybe now he's willing to accept the role. Earthmover's end was pretty definitive. He didn't show up again in any other episodes or tie-in comics. Having said that, in Justice League Beyond number 23, a digital comic inspired by the DCAU, a new version of the Terrific Trio cropped up, consisting of Plastic Man, Zeta, and Earthmover. It was a throwaway shot and they were only casually mentioned. They were only there to make fans gasp, saying, "Hey, I know that guy." There was no explanation of how he might have recovered and turned to heroism. If you couldn't tell, I really don't rate these comics all that much, mostly because of how people conflate them with the shows, even though they came out about a decade after the shows ended, and without the involvement of anyone that worked on the shows. See also the Batman-Batgirl pregnancy story. However, I did want to say that I think turning Earthmover into a hero would diminish him. I understand that some people prefer stories with happy endings, where even the worst among us can turn things around and be a force for good. But you can understand a villain without needing to see them reform. The best villains invite empathy, while still demanding accountability. Turning every tragic villain into a hero risks sending the message that pain excuses everything, which cheapens both the hero's morality and the villain's tragedy. Horror and myth thrive on figures who are beyond redemption. The Earth Mover, this Fibes-esque ghoul buried alive, is so effective because he's gone too far. The tragedy isn't that he might be saved, it's that he never will be. At the end of the day, Earth Mover was not Tony Maychek. He may once have been, but everything that man was died in that mineshaft and drowned in toxic waste. Earth Mover was, as Batman put it, a ghost, a vengeful figure who symbolized buried guilt. Batman Beyond promised a future, but it kept unearthing ghosts, and Earth Mover is one of the most memorable. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. Next time. Now that Spooky Month is behind us, it's time to get back to my regularly scheduled programming. I'll be back on Monday to talk about the character that came second place in my recent Beware the Batman villain poll. Quite fittingly, I'll be talking about Two-Face. And next Friday I'll cover an often overlooked episode of Batman the Animated Series, where Batman questions whether his fight against crime really matters after Commissioner Gordon is shot in the line of duty. It's time to talk about I Am the Night. Hope to see you then.